What is up everyone, Movie back again with another review, and today is going to be for The Evil Dead from 1981. This is directed by Sam Raimi and stars Bruce Campbell. Now we do have The Evil Dead Rise coming up, so I'm planning on reviewing each one of these movies in the franchise that came before it, leading up to that release, and where better to start than this one, of course. This tells the story of a group of friends staying at a remote cabin who find an ancient book and accidentally bring a demonic force into play. Now, the Evil Dead franchise is not really a series of horror films that I've taken to, like A Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, Halloween. I thought they were good movies, but that was about it. I haven't seen them in a very, very long time though, since my teenage years. So will this time they resonate with me a little bit more? I understand that they have a massive cult following and a pretty large fan base, so there's got to be some reasons there, right? So let's get into it. The Evil Dead. Now, this was a very controversial movie back in the UK in 1983 when we actually got this released. I understand it's a 1981 film, but a woman called Mary Whitehouse was leading the charge to get a lot of videos banned, basically, and she came out and said, "I've seen the worst of them all, the nastiest, bloodiest, most depraved movie out of all these films that we are trying to ban here." And that movie was, in fact, The Evil Dead, which leaves me scratching my head a little bit, especially after rewatching this now. It's pretty tame compared to some of the films that got banned. But apparently, back in the day, this was the movie that you had to watch to be in with the cool kids at school. And first off, I just want to talk about the directing from Sam Raimi here. There was a lot of horror films coming out in the 70s before this and the 80s in the decade that came out, but you can tell very early on that this one just stands out a little bit more in the filmmaking department very early on, and gives a lot of reasons why Sam Raimi is one of the biggest directors working today. It's no secret that this was a very low budget he had to work with here, and he has squeezed every ounce of energy and positive filmmaking that he can. Whatever it is on screen, you can tell he put all his effort into it with the tools he had at his disposal there. For example, just something like the overhead shots of the car entering this forest where this cabin is creates a sense of dread and atmosphere that something is not quite right with this place. He just builds the tension very early on. And if you're going to say horror movie forest, that's exactly what you get here. All the mist just basically circulating around the air there, the dark woodland landscape, the sense of isolation that is created. It's just a creepy as hell location, and Sam Raimi paid attention to detail everywhere on the screen, and it's no wonder that people who've seen this film want to enter the fucking forest on their own, that's for sure. I also think a lot of the first person views really worked on this movie. You sort of just switch all of a sudden, and the camera may be running into the cabin, and you know it's something evil or a demonic force that's gone into there, and you instantly think that these characters are in trouble now in this cabin because something is in there with them. We don't quite know what it is early on. Things like that just make it stand out. I also really like the concept here of these characters just going to this cabin. We've seen that all before, haven't we? But finding the Book of the Dead and sort of playing this tape to bring the demons out and this evil lurking around, surrounding the cabin. You know, it's a cheesy, corny concept, but sometimes these can just work, especially if you're making a horror film in the 80s.
I fear that the only way to stop those possessed by the spirits of the book is through the act of bodily dismemberment.
Now I just want to talk about some of the best parts of the movie here. When these characters are taken over by the demons, you can tell that the character that was there before is definitely not the same character now. They may look a little bit of resemblance on the outside, but the makeup design is awesome. Some of the best you'll see from the early 80s to make these demons or characters just look absolutely depraved, sinister, and evil. And the voice acting as well. I mean, they just sound like they want to wreak havoc on all the other characters and bring hell to their lives. When you see the first demon as well, reading out the card, you're like, holy shit, what happened there? One of my favourite parts of the entire film. If you played the very first Resident Evil on the PlayStation, and you first see that zombie get up at the start, that's kind of what this scene reminded me of.
8 of spades. 2 spades. Jack of diamonds. Jack of clubs.
Now, not only is the demon design awesome, but the blood and gore effects that have gone into this here, where it's just spilled all over the screen, is a treat for gorehounds like me. I mean, it's right up my street, and it is utilised very, very well. And this is where the film just gets batshit crazy. Body parts are mutilated. Ash is just walking around constantly with this blood all over his face. Heck, even the wall sockets in the house start to bleed. I mean, the house is literally bleeding. Light bulbs are filling up with blood. I mean, there's just gallons of this damn stuff on screen, and I would not be surprised if a hell of a lot of the budget, at least half of it, went on some blood effects. Now, I can see why people absolutely love this movie, but this, after the first 40 minutes, is where Evil Dead, unfortunately, started to lose me a little bit when all this crazy ass shit started to happen. And although I was enjoying this for about 5 or 10 minutes, it all just started to feel a little bit repetitive there. It's like Sam Raimi overloaded the viewer with way too much. And I was kind of enjoying the story, and then all this stuff starts happening. And I was just like, oh, this film's losing me a little bit there. Now, I can understand why people would love this, but for me, it just felt very, very constant. And by the end of the movie, I was like, oh my God, this is just too much. And there are good moments thrown in there. There are like bodies being mutilated and body parts moving around and stuff. But at the same time, it all just felt way too silly. And all the screaming and shouting and the voice acting by the demons starts to become a little bit grating on the ears, let's say. Now, I know I said the actors were doing a great job with the demonic voices at the start of the film, and they do. But by the end, man, you just want them to be quiet. It becomes frustrating to listen to, unfortunately. I just want to talk a little bit about the characters in this movie. I know Bruce Campbell has made Ash into this cult personality, one of the greatest movie characters of all time in horror history. I get it. But in this film, I'm just talking about the Evil Dead 1 here, more on him in Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. I am aware that he gets better as the movies go on. But in this film, I don't think he had enough to warrant that cult following, basically. I don't think there was many people back in the day who were in love with this character just by the Evil Dead 1. Surely not, because he just does a job here. He's a good character, but that's kind of it. He doesn't bring too much to the movie, in my opinion. Sorry, Bruce Campbell fans, if you're shouting at the screen there. But again, I'm just talking about the first Evil Dead film. And all the other characters don't really have time to get into themselves because they're either turned into demons early on or whatever. So I'm really mainly just talking about Bruce Campbell here. But in this film, he done the job, that was it. Now I just want to touch on the infamous tree rape scene here. It sounds mad to say that, a tree rape scene. But Sam Raimi constantly just throws wacky shit at you all the time. So I'm not surprised that a scene like this is in a film called The Evil Dead. Now, maybe Mary Whitehouse was referring to this as being the most depraved thing that she's seen, because even though there's a lot of blood in this movie and stuff, it doesn't feel like anything is too extreme, apart from maybe this one little scene. But like I said, it just felt part of the movie to me. After revisiting The Evil Dead, I'll say I had a good time with this, but it wasn't quite the horror hit I was expecting on this rewatch. I don't quite get the infamous status that this movie has. There was a lot of good parts to it. There are lots of reasons why people will love this, and there's a hell of a lot of people out there who will love this more than me. But on this rewatch, just didn't quite do it for me, unfortunately. However, it's still a good film. I'm just going to go ahead and make this movie now. I'm going to give The Evil Dead a 6.5 out of 10. Sam Raimi showing what he can do on a shoestring budget. But for me, it was kind of a film of two halves. But at 85 minutes, you can fly through this, and you might love it a hell of a lot more than I did. Okay, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for The Evil Dead is that 13 crew members actually were holed up in this cabin where the movie takes place and had to stay there during filming. And they would constantly argue and bicker, and living conditions weren't all that great. So, I guess that's what happens when you're working on a low-budget movie. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel. Got the Evil Dead 2 review coming up next, so hopefully you can all tune in for that one. What are your thoughts on the Evil Dead? Are they the same as mine? Do you think I'm talking crap and you love this movie and it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece to you? Leave it down below and I'll try and get back to you all, I promise. Take it all easy guys. I'll see you all next video.